Hi everyone, it's Plastic EP here and welcome to GEMSTARS. We're here in Melbourne, Australia. We're in lockdown, we're in curfew, but doesn't matter. I've got CATHY CC Clarkson coming in from New Mexico, and we've got a very special guest here. We've got FLOYD McKENZIE here with us. Say a big hello to FLOYD, CATHY.
Yeah, FLOYD is also known as Soul McKenzie now, so we can call him Soul.
So how are you today, FLOYD?
Oh, I'm doing quite well.
That's great. Well, welcome to GEMSTARS. She's my kind of girl. She's my kind of girl. Soon you'll be close to me, 'cause you mean the most to me. You're my kind of girl. Yes, you're my kind of girl. Right, straight into it today. FLOYD, I want to ask you about the music industry now, how you started and how you got into it, and basically where you are now, because you've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it was a fluke, mate. Fluke. All right, yeah, it's gosh, you know, I always had something in me. You know, I'll tell you how I really got started was my dad used to play jazz records every Sunday, Sunday morning, Sunday, and even Saturdays he'd play them. And so I was always listening to people like Charlie Parker, Cannonball Adderley, all that jazz stuff. And then he even played the Seekers. He played a lot of other,
big in Australia.
Yeah, he played all kinds of records. And then so I guess I carried that in me, and it wasn't until I was 17 last year of high school, my brother and myself met some guys that had like guitars, Fenders, and they were playing the Brothers Johnson at the house. And it was during the time in the 70s when everybody had afros and bell-bottom pants and the whole bit. And something just grabbed me, and I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. And even in my high school yearbook, it says I want to be a famous guitar player. So I somewhat did something like that quite a few times.
I know you're in America. Tell everyone where you came from in the UK. I say UK, we say England.
Right. Yeah. Originally born in Balham, a town called Balham in South London. Very nice place at the time. And then, you know, we moved to Essex. And then after that, I ended up in boarding school in Surrey. I think it was, one town away from Croydon in a town called Purley. Yeah. That's so great. I moved around. Yeah, I moved around.
And what's it like living in the US?
The US is a dream come true. A beautiful place as far as weather-wise, if you're in the right spot, and South Florida is a good spot. So, yeah.
Florida's great.
Yeah.
CATHY.
Yeah. Now, let's see. You were born in England, and when did you move to the States?
1975, October 1975.
Oh, okay. Now, was that after you were in the band that was in Jamaica? You said you were in a band with Wayne Chin, and you know, that was your first gig or band, right? Professional.
Right. Yeah. Later on after that. Yeah. So that was 1975 is when I came to America, and it wasn't until like 1981, 82, I was in that band, played rhythm guitar, and my brother played rhythm also and some lead. We had a good time. It was good.
Yeah, so it was a family endeavor, huh?
Yes.
Oh, look, that's so cool. And now, you know, you've worked with Tony Arfi, who started Power Play Studios in New York City. I mean, that is huge. I mean, they recorded everyone from Ziggy Marley to Lloyd Price, and you mentioned you worked with Lloyd Price, and you were #1 in the hip hop recording studio in the world. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, you know, it's a huge accomplishment. Just to, you know, I remember the first day I worked there. I was an intern at first, so I didn't get paid. They showed me the room where I was going to be working in, and then it went on from there, you know. And then I became a paid second engineer when they found out I had there was a keyboard called the emulator, and it cost $5,000 at the time, and the sounds cost $1,000, and I had the sounds. And so when I told them I had the sounds, they didn't believe me. I brought them in the next day, and then they tried them in the $5,000 emulator keyboard, and Patrick Adams, who was the #1 disco producer at the time, he said, what intern brought these in? And they mentioned my name, and he said, I want this guy in every session. So that's when they put me on salary, and I was with him. I think I was with him for like 2 or 3 years. Well, side by side, it was an awesome time. Yeah.
I'm right into disco. Can I ask you what's the biggest disco song he did that you helped, sound engineer?
Now, when I met him, disco was already fading out. So, but the biggest record, I think the biggest record he ever did was, on Facebook, I saw something that he wrote, or he had something to do with Ain't No Mountain High Enough. But the biggest disco record that he ever did was Push Push in the Bush, which was and he worked with Musique. He produced everything that Musique did during the disco era.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. And he went on to do other things, greater things than that. So
that's wonderful. Now, you've also worked with some legendary groups, pop group NSYNC. Can you talk a little bit about that?
NSYNC? Oh, that was so long ago. It's like that's like a blur. NSYNC. That's a blur to me. I don't even remember.
Well, that's okay.
All right. If we're not with NSYNC, what about In Excess? Tell us about that, the Australian group.
Yeah. So what happened there was a lot of people were leaving Power Play Studios, and so they were working more over with a gentleman named Intume, who came out with that record called Juicy Fruit. And Intume, he had a nice studio on Patterson Plank Road in New Jersey, and he was calling in all these people, that he knew that he probably went on tour with, and In Excess was one of them. In Excess was in one room on the SSL room, laying their next album. I don't remember what album it was, but in the other room was Billy Idol's guitar players doing their thing. I was assigned to them most of the time, but yeah, it was good too. Had a good time. I dreaded the travel from Queens to New Jersey, but it was worth it.
Sounds amazing producing, but what I'm saying is, even Billy Idol, one of his biggest hits was Rebel Yell.
Oh yeah. And what was it? And what was that? Something Without a Face. Eyes Without a Face. I love that song.
That's right. Have you heard of a Australian band called The Angels?
Never. No.
Okay. I suggest you go to YouTube and check them out. I'll tell you a little bit about them, which is really interesting. They were supporting AC/DC.
Oh.
And they were under the same management, Albert Productions in Sydney. And they were opening up for AC/DC in the early years, and they went to another company overseas. But if you listen to their songs, go to iTunes, songs like Am I Ever Gonna See Your Face Again? Things like that on YouTube. You'll be amazed with that Australian rock sound.
Right. Yeah, I looked it up.
Now, let's talk about the last project you worked with. Everybody knows Adam Levine and Maroon 5. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that, Lloyd?
Well, yeah, when you're with the entertainment union, they assign you to different places. And I was assigned, I was there at the amphitheater in Palm Beach. And I was assigned there for quite a while. My job was AV tech. And I had to make sure that all the video screens were running. We like to do a lot of prep work before they come in, but sometimes if they don't call you, you're stuck with what you got. But yeah, it was a good time. They come in with the 6 and 7 trucks and the tour buses. And then so I liaison with the audio visual guys. I tell them where they can hook up and everything. And then I send the feed out to the field and some other areas throughout the amphitheater. So doing that was fun. And then, you know, you're allowed access backstage. You see everybody, you see all the rehearsals. And then you're on standby to make sure if anything goes wrong, you know, you try to check it out to see if it's from your devices, or, you know, or if it's theirs. You try to liaison to make sure the show moves smoothly. But it was a good time. Had great time there, and it was good.
Yeah.
I want to
Now,
ask you now, Floyd, if you want to do producing yourself now, let's say you want to have your own production company, what genre of music would you really like to do? I'm interested to know.
Wow. Gosh, I wouldn't narrow it down to just one type of music, because I seem to have a feel for all types. Right now I'm doing love songs, and I seem to have a really knack for that. I just wrote a song called Sharing This Dream With You. It's like a wedding song. And then this other one that's called I've Got Something Just For You. That's a beautiful song. For some reason, what was it? During the pandemic, I was sitting there looking out the window in the house that I used to live in. Hint, hint. And this song came up, and it's called I've Got Something Just For You. And for the first time, my wife said, "Shut up, you're making too much noise." I mean, my first time in 36 years, my wife told me to shut up, I'm making too much noise. So I said, well, there's something about this song. So that was during the summer, and it wasn't until like Christmas, New Year's, around that time, my wife heard me started to record it, and I recorded it in 2 days, and I mastered it within that time also. Because when I record, I master at the same time. You know, I keep the levels down way below, so I can push the audio at the end. But yeah, I recorded it and mastered it in 2 days, and I was amazed. I said, "Wow!" And my wife and I would just sit there in the living room, just like, "Is this me? Is that you?" You know. So we're onto something there. I saved all the patches and everything. So, you know, if I need to write more, I just go right into it so I can capture the feel and then go from there.
I mean, there's so much talent out there. I'm just saying,
love songs
up
and
and coming great artists. You might actually do something with production and find these people and give them songs.
Yeah. I had one person approach me this week, called me yesterday and asked me to, you know, sit down and work on jazz inspirational project. So, you know, that's out there to be, you know, checked out. But yeah, going back to what songs, it'd probably be love songs and inspirational songs.
yeah. Now, is your wife an artist? Because you said she sang on the album with you.
No, she's not. She's a great supporter. She bought me my first Fender way back. So when she did that, I said, she's a keeper. Us guys know what that's about.
Keep you busy.
Yeah.
Floyd.
Say again?
How long have you been together?
36 years.
Yeah, okay. Because we have a common friend, Tommy, and he told me that you were married and you've been married a long time. So now do you have children? Are any of your children involved with music? I mean, do you have children?
Yeah, we have one daughter. She's 31 years of age, and she chose not to, you know, get into the music scene. But, you know, from time to time, I've heard her dabble on the drums, and she was sneaking into the studio and practicing, and I played the bass, she played the drums, and we played, I think it was Roxanne and Walking on the Moon. So it was the endorphins just rush when your kids is able to do that. But she did that and played the bass a little, and that was it. She stopped. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, now you worked also with Lady Antebellum and Alanis Morissette recently too. Is that true?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, in the same capacity, because I was head AV at the amphitheater, and
Mhm.
so they would come in, and I would have to liaison with the audio crew, make sure that the audio and the video, the speakers were working in the amphitheater, so they could connect them together. And you know, same thing. You're backstage, and you're working out the bugs, and there are bugs that come up, and you have to fix them before showtime.
Oh
And
yeah.
so that, you
Serious.
know, yeah, that
Mm.
was part of my deal there. Yep.
Yeah. Now, I found it interesting that your wife's cousin is Mr. Colin Powell.
Yeah.
I was like,
Um,
'cause I had worked with some projects with him, and
oh, okay.
when
Oh,
a long time ago, like over 20 years ago.
right.
So that.
Yeah, yeah. I've never met him. My wife has never, you know, met him. But
Mhm.
you know, they would always say, "Oh yeah, we're related to him. He's, you know, he's the cousin that left Jamaica and went to the Bronx." And yeah, it was like that. That's what, you know, that's how I would hear it, you know. So
Really? I didn't even know that.
yeah,
Yeah, because he's a military-looking dude, you know? He's serious. He means
he
business.
he is, yeah, very much so.
Okay, so as far as your music goes, so you're gonna continue writing, right? Of course,
Oh yes, most definitely.
producing your own projects.
Yes.
Have you ever released anything like a, album project, EPK, or anything like that on yourself?
Yeah. Let's see. My first release was a project called His Majesty, and it had a mixture of inspirational songs and love songs. And that went over pretty good. That was released in 2009, and then that took 3 years to actually do. You know, me, I did everything: drum machine, from the hi hat all the way down to playing the guitar and doing all the vocals. And then I did another project which was called Butterfly. That was more techno. That took 6 months. Um, that's like out the box, 6 months, and I won an award for that. Best. They used to have an award that they used to give out in Palm Beach, in South Florida, called the best artist, and it was they called it like the Grammy something for South Florida. So they used to have the big occasion and the whole bit in a theater, and you know that went off pretty good too.
Mhm.
It's great.
Yeah.
Now, with music as you see it, I'm saying music seems to be a reincarnation of music itself. Like, in other words, rock reinvents itself. Disco, I think, is set for another big comeback myself personally. I think people loved disco because music was like an adventure with the songs. You know what I mean? It was unlimited songs, 3-4 minutes and longer. And I actually think disco's coming back. Well, if it's not, it's a big inspiration to what's coming in the future, I feel. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I believe it's coming back. People like something familiar. So you know, when you write something and it sounds like something, people can gravitate to it. But if you notice, if you look out, I don't know if how it is in Australia, but here in South Florida, people seem to have this retro look, like they've gone back to the 70s. So you'll see people in wearing orange and different and like wider lapels and things like that. So usually when fashion comes back, music tends to come back also. If it's
Totally
not,
agree with you. But as I said, now people are looking for happiness and good times. And I
we
can
need
tell
it.
you, there's a lot of music that they play on the radio. It's not that great. They don't write music like they used to. I mean, look, I'm just saying in general, Donna Summer, these big artists of the disco era, you hear that music and it just brings back happiness. For myself, right, I'm a big fan of KC and the Sunshine Band. His music lives on forever. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, it's there.
Right? Yeah, 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 yeah. The studio where he recorded is like a few miles down the road. I think it's like no, 50 miles down the road from where I'm at. Yeah. So, but yeah, that music is so happy. Happy times. I remember in the discos when I was younger. They had like a little discotheque, and we would go there after school and have fun on a Friday night, you know. So and everybody did that. Come on now, and even if you
it's true.
stuck out,
I was in the disco era. It's true, but you got to understand something here in Australia. Well, when they had the disco here, they had like a lot of Greeks and Italians, and they were wearing white, like from the Saturday Night Fever. You know, hairy chests and medallions. That was like the look, white suits. You know, those times aren't coming back, but the memories are if you lived it. And I was fortunate enough to say I lived it. You know, like from 76 to 78 here in Australia, disco was huge.
Yeah. I mean, I actually snuck in with my sister. We actually had an ID, and we were actually the same age as the Dancing Queen song at the time.
That's right, but that was the norm. But I also want to say something, Floyd. Here in Australia, it's like the collection of 12-inch extended play records, the same size as an album, but they're actually like 45s, but extended plays. You know what I mean? The big record, extended mixes of the actual songs. A lot of people have still collected those from back then, have still got them. They're worth a lot of money now, the real items that came out back at that time. 12-inch extended songs.
Most definitely. Gold mine there. You need to hold on to that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Plastic EP is really into the monkeys. He does a Monkey Mania radio show on Saturday. Everyone's
I've got to say something about Monkey Mania, not that it matters, but when you're born, and this is what I believe, 1964, I'm 6 years old. The Beatles are all over the TV, black and white TV, because they toured here in Melbourne, Australia, and around Australia in 64. And when you're too young, that's not like your gateway to music. I had to wait until I was 8, 9 years old. And at the time, 1967, the Monkees were white, red hot. They were the biggest band with a TV show. They had the greatest songwriters. So for me, that was my real introduction of music. So that's why that's my all-time #1 favorite band, right? And the reason is they were a big influence on me. And I just want to show you something while I got you there. This took me 52 years to get signed by all 4 Monkees. That poster, that's my original 1967 poster. 52 years to get that signed. That's how much I love the Monkees. But what I'm trying to say is I may have entered music with the Monkees, and someone else might enter music with ABBA because that's their generation, or Michael Jackson. That's their generation. But let me explain to you. We all start somewhere, but everybody ends up at the Beatles. That's how the music universe works. You learn an artist, or you grow up with an artist, whether that be ABBA, you sing an ABBA, but you'll eventually realize about the Beatles, because the Beatles are #1 and still are, and they're like the greatest writers of the 20th century and beyond. And that's why no matter where you start, you still have that knowledge of the Beatles. You agree with that?
I agree, most definitely. And then it goes on. I remember being in boarding school. I had the little transistor radio. It looked like an electric shaver because it had the 2 knobs. And I've got it under my pillow, and I'm listening to, and you're gonna freak out. Well, I know Cathy will. I was listening to Wolfman Jack, right? I think they syndicated the radio show from Radio Luxembourg in Germany or something like that, and I would get it in England on an AM station. So, and
I'm familiar with Wolfman Jack.
Yeah, he played everybody. He played the ABBA. He played the Beatles. He played everybody you could. Oh, Lloyd Price. To think, and yeah, it's amazing.
It's funny that music reinvents itself. I'll give you an example. 1964. We're living through that now. The 70s, as you said, they're wearing what they're wearing in Florida. We're reliving that now, because what happens is most of the people from 1964, unfortunately, a lot of people have passed away, and there's new generations now.
Right.
So people that are of the new generation music fan are discovering 1964, and they don't know what 1964 is, apart from going on the internet and reading books and seeing things, because they totally don't know.
Right.
So the Beatles are gaining new fans. The Monkees are doing their last farewell tour now in the States. It's the last time they're going to tour, Mickey and Mike, because they're the 2 remaining Monkees. They're on tour as I speak. around the US, and they're going to write a new chapter. And what I'm trying to say is music reinvents itself because it picks up new generation fans with every new generation. That's the amazing thing about music.
Right. It's ongoing, and it
that's
will
right.
never
That's
stop.
what I'm saying. Yeah. And rock actually reinvents itself in rock. If you go back to rock, there's so many songs that sound familiar. It's not a copy of songs. It's just that the rock reinvents itself in different forms, like jazz reinvents itself in different forms. Pop reinvents itself in different forms. And that's what it really is. Nobody's copying anything, but you can get 10 albums, right? And you can listen to 10 albums as an influence. Let's say if I wanted to do disco, I'll get 10 disco albums, I'll listen to them. They're an influence. But I can also tell you this, Floyd, and I don't know if you agree. A lot of people don't do this, but I write songs too. But I can tell you that some people can listen to one song, right? Now they can interpret that song and the music, and when they interpret it one time or two times or three times, I can tell you it's more likely that that's a totally different song from the original song.
Yeah.
Because it has new layers, a new form. That's what it is. Because a lot of people listen to the 60s stuff to reinvent the 60s. You agree?
Yeah, I agree. People are always doing things to bring it back, like people like ourselves, because we know what it was, you know, and so when you bring back something familiar, then we know it's going to work. You know, when you try to sit down and do something that's like coming out of you, a lot of people can't connect to it right away. But if you put some little lyric, or if you put a melody or something, you know, or most of the time, if you use the same beat, like a lot of people can use a Motown beat, but do a rendition that's more up to date, and they can say, oh yeah, there's something about that, I like that, it sounds familiar.
It's a take of something else. That's what it is. But I've even heard, like I do a lot of internet reading, I've even heard some people get songs and change the words, and that's good enough to change the structure of the whole song just by interpreting new words over the old words.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard that, but I've heard that.
So now, Floyd, where can we get your music? Can you let us know where your fans and new fans that want to find you can find you?
You can get my music on Amazon.com. You can get it on Apple iTunes. You'll see an album called Butterfly. You'll see Father. You'll see quite a few singles that I've done in the past.
Okay, but it's under Soul McKenzie, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, and the artist name is Soul McKenzie. That's SOULMCKENZIE. Yeah.
Okay, now we got a few texts here. Kathy, can you read these out as we go?
Okay. Jan Mitchell, we need happy music now. Disco music was so lively and fun. Great to dance to. Yes, we totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Ed Rising. Disco was always fun, but took many years for those artists to gain respect. Fortunately, Donna Summer found herself respected before her untimely passing.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Rebecca Taylor. Hello, Plastic EP. I'm grateful for you.
Okay, this one.
Rebecca Taylor again. I love Wolfman Jack.
See, that hit a nerve. And what I'm trying to say is, it's like, I don't know if you've heard a station, but if you go on YouTube, Floyd, and you look up Boss Radio 1967, there's a guy on there that does Boss Radio. They've got different disc jockeys. And there's one that's really, the guy's really great, right? I've forgotten his name offhand, but he comes out and you listen to, let's say, an hour or half an hour of his show from 1967, and you get the vibe of what it was about in 1967. And you appreciate it more in 2021 that these things are recorded and we can actually hear them today. I've got another one here. Watch this. Read that out, Kathy.
Okay, Ed Rising again. Floyd, it's a pleasure to hear about the wide variety of music you have been involved.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate that.
He's got a great name too, Ed Rising. It's like the temperature. I love the guy.
Yes,
Thanks for tuning in, Ed.
it's terrific.
Now, Floyd, I tell you, it's been our pleasure having you on the show. And as I said, you've given out your links. You got your whole future ahead of you. And the great thing is I can tell your passion, you love the music, you do what you want to do, and that's the main thing. And Cathy and I are in the same sort of vein. We go our little road that we do, and as I said, we're in the songwriting, so we really appreciate and understand everything that you tell us. So this is what's great about this show. We don't talk too much about what we've done and what we know about music, but our appreciation of our guests and them knowing about music. They're dealing with people that understand. You see, that's the great thing about this show. GEMSTARS, we want to bring you the best possible people involved in music every time we can, because out there in the audience, they need happiness. They need to know what's happening in music, and they want to keep up to date. And this is the show to tell them. And I'll tell you, Floyd, it's been our pleasure having you on the show. And we're looking to you doing more producing, having more hits, and as I said, spreading your happiness out to the world. You agree, Cathy?
I totally agree. Now, Floyd, you really got soul.
Thank you, love. Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show, Floyd. Thanks, Cathy, and thanks everyone for tuning out there all over the world. See you soon on our next episode of GEMSTARS. See ya.